up, gamers? Today we are going to be reviewing Discover Lands Unknown, a unique game from Fantasy Flight Games designed by Corey Knitska. Before we get any further than that, let's not forget to introduce ourselves. So, I'm Jason.
I'm Julie.
Now, you may be wondering what a unique game is. Well, it means that each copy is different. You may get some similar elements in your respective copies. However, none will be exactly the same. You may have different characters. Some landmarks may be in different locations despite the terrain set that you have. And just some other small differences in terms of the items and monsters that will be in your game. Now, we'll talk a lot more about that in a review, how we think it actually works. With that being said, I will now toss it over to Julie, who's going to tell you more about the game itself.
So it's a game for 1 to 4 players for ages 12 and above. It says the game is about an hour to 2 hours. I think it's closer to the 1 hour mark based on our playthroughs.
Yeah, I think it would also depend on the player count. I could easily see this getting longer with 4 players, just the amount of time it takes for people to take their turn. I think the breakdown of maybe about a half hour per player would be fairly solid.
Yep.
Now you may be wondering what you're going to be doing in Discover. Well, each scenario is a little different, but suffice it to say, you wake up, you don't know where you are, and you must survive. This is a co-op or semi-cooperative survival game. You start off on one tile by a fire, and then you need to move around, explore the map. You're going to be going through a random storyline. The reason why I say it's random is that each story is different in every copy of Discover. And then there'll be various stages to the story. And then you're going to try to complete all those stages and successfully survive and win the game. That being said, Julie, I don't think there's anything more to add.
Nope.
So what is it time for?
Grab our drinks.
Grab our best friend.
We're going to take it to the table.
We'll take it to the table. And as it's almost hockey playoff season, you know, our team has entered survival mode and it's a survival game. I thought this was just a little appropriate. Now we're going to take a quick look at the components for Discover Lands Unknown. As always, I will start with the components that I do not have on camera. So you do start with the rulebook. Now the rulebook doesn't really have a quick reference guide in it. It does do a good job of presenting what you should have in the game. Don't forget though that every game is different. So you're going to want to double check and make sure you got the right components. Now you are going to get 2 different scenario booklets. Each of them will be used for different scenarios, and the game comes with 2 terrain types. We've got the Bayou, which is for scenarios 3, 4, and 5, and then the Valley, which is for scenarios 1, 2, and 5. The reason for that is because scenario 5 is a competitive scenario that can essentially be endlessly replayed. All right, we got that out of the way. Let's look at the rest of the components. Now here we've got the character trackers and the 4 survivor tokens that you'll be moving around the map. We've got 12 character cards, and as you can see, you get a little flavor text about who the character is, their name, who they are, manually the construction worker, and what special abilities that he has, and in this case he gets a special action. All the character cards are different. We can just show you some other ones like Tasha Fletcher. She can actually move up to 4 spaces for one of those action points. Pretty cool. Now, here we've got the other cards you're going to get. Just a quick reference card that reviews all of the different actions that you can take and the different combat modifiers that you can gain by spending resources. Now, every character has these combat assist cards. You only use them in multiplayer games. And what they are, for example, you've got Defend, Assault, Overpower. Personally, I like Overpower. In this case, if the enemy suffers a damage, it suffers 1 additional damage. But if things go badly and the person you're trying to help suffers damage, you will suffer damage. Now, these can only be used within a certain distance of other players. Here we've got the plan cards. You've got the standard and the advanced. What you can do is build yourself different items such as body armor, a torch, leather armor. To do that, you got to pay the resources, and then you're able to get that item, which you will get from the, if I'm not mistaken, crafted item deck right here. So as you can see, stuff you can make, water pouch, there's a leather armor, and all the crafted items are in here. You will have 4 of each type, 1 for each potential survivor that you are playing with. Next, we've got the enemy cards, which can be your food. We'll talk about that a little bit. So you can see some of the stuff down here is really just food. Other than that, you can get wolves, wolf packs, survivalists, other things that may be attacking you. Now these as well are different in every game. And right here we've got the large stack of exploration cards, which you will gain depending on what's happening in your scenario. They can be items, upgrades, sort of this event and an option that you get. For example, here you may spend 1 wood to gain 1 medicine. Pretty cool stuff. And the one thing I do want to highlight, all of these cards are numbered. Don't expect it to go 1 up. Depending on the scenario you got, it will tell you what cards you should have, and that is referenced in the scenario book. As you can see right here, Valley components and the cards that you need for each scenario. Now, after that, we've got the actual scenario cards. In this version of the game, it is Cry for Help. You set the stage, and scenario 1 is actually 3 stages. It'll tell you how to complete it, and you go through each of the stages to win the scenario. Now you've got your threat cards here. Depending on what scenario you're playing, it'll tell you what to use. You've got the blue ones and the orange ones. Threat cards are events that can happen at night when bad things happen. So for example, this one's Strange Symbols. It can make each monster move closer to you. Next, with regards to cards, we have the nighttime cards. You've got the blue ones, which are easier, and then the red ones, which are harder. As you move through stages, sometimes you'll be told to discard the easier ones. What will happen at night, and we'll just give you a breakdown. So in this case, with this one, you get hunger. So each survivor must spend 1 food or suffer hunger damage. It tells you how long you slept, how much stamina you get to keep continuing on doing actions, and what will happen during the night. So as you can see, each survivor not at a fire will draw a threat card. And these ones are just a little nastier, as you can see here. Spoiled food, thirst, sleep, predators. So you can see you got 4 things that happen at night instead of just 3. Here we've got counter tokens just to count damage and other things that'll be occurring in the game. Fire tokens so you can mark the location of other fires, and these will be useful depending on the scenario. And then the tribe leader token to mark who is the first player. We also have the 2 dice you're going to be using when you're attacking. Red is the enemy die, and gray is your die. Don't worry, we'll talk about combat as we get into the how to play. Now here are the resource tokens. I believe this is like metal or mechanics. I was actually looking through the rule book, and there isn't a specific title for this. The other ones I can name off. You've got wood, like your rock, medicine, poison, food, water. Some of them are double-sided because, for example, once you gain meat as a resource, you can turn it into edible food, and you may have water that becomes dirty or is already dirty that can then be purified. So these are your resource tokens. Now you will also be potentially gaining these items here as resource tokens. So as you're moving around the map and exploring, you may interact with this token, and as you can see, it will give you 2 wood. You don't take 2 of these. You keep this as a resource token that you can spend. Now if you happen to only need to spend 1, well, then you'll grab that 1 wood resource. Very simple and straightforward. So let's move on to look at the board stuff and the different tokens. We're not going to look at these orange threat cards. We covered it with the blue ones. The orange ones are just nastier. Now what comes to the valley scenario, you've got these tiles right here, your starting tile, and some of these might be upside down. I'll just place this. You've got 4, 2, 2, 2. There's also a 3. I meant to grab a 3. I did not. We'll take a look at the Bayou tiles in just a second. But essentially, you're going to look at the scenario, and I'll do that right now. Let's put this back. Actually, before I put it back, you can just see that all the tiles are different, even though they were labeled the same. So let's put this back down, and we'll take a quick look at the Valley scenario book so you have an idea as to how you're going to be setting it up. Now, when you look at the Valley scenario book, you'll see how the map is built right here, this tile in the center, what directions they go, where you place your 4s, your 3s, and your 2s, also your 1s. Now, the tokens that you have your starting fire token, which you'll place there. If it happens to go out, you just flip it over. You've got the different kinds of resources that you have. You have food, which may actually send you to an exploration card. So in this case, you can see this food can send you to exploration card 13, or your standard food, which may be berries. Each of the food types have different rules around it. You've got your hunting one, so you can essentially hunt game to gain meat and potentially pelts. I actually did neglect to put the pelt resource token on here. Just we'll grab the leather armor here. That's what the pelt resource looks like. My apologies. Now you've got the wood, which I already showed you. You can get, your stone resources. And then finally the monsters. When you encounter a monster, you'll flip this over, get an idea of what it is, and it'll tell you which of the monster, the enemy cards to draw. This will always be moving face down until someone encounters it and reveals it. To help with the direction of how monsters go and movement around the map, you've got the compass token. You adjust it based on what's printed in the scenario book. Now, here we've got the Bayou. There are other ones. As you can see, we've got similar tokens. Both of them have their own water tokens. Once again, you get your starting token. As you can see, 3, 2, and 4, those numbers on the token. You'll take a look at the book to set it up. Now, when you look at the water token, you may have something that is actually poison, which may or may not be good depending on your character. You may get clean water. You may even have, such as on the Bayou, dirty water. And as well as you can see, there is your starting fire token, which I'll just place out. We've got, once again, our food, exact same. Rock resource, log. In this case, it's the Bayou, so there's fish, which turns into fish meat. Pretty cool. And as you can see, its own monsters, which will tell you to reference that specific monster card. So we've covered everything except this last token here. Some scenarios have you encounter special monsters. They have these special tokens and will refer you to a monster in the enemy deck. And there you have it. That is all of the components for Discover Lands Unknown. So I'm going to work on surviving just like my Canadians are trying to survive to get into the playoffs. I'm going to come back at you with the how to play. Keep it right here. We'll be back in a flash. We're going to take a quick look at how to play Discover Lands Unknown. Now, just a quick correction from the setup. When you're playing a one-player game, you start with 2 project cards. Once you've completed a project, you're then able to draw another project card. Now, you can see all of the different actions that you can take during the game. Each of these actions will cost 1 stamina to perform. And then you've got the list of all the combat modifiers. What I'm going to do is go through just, 1 or 2 turns of the game so that you get a feel for it. We're not going to go through all the actions because, as you can see, we've got, about 9 different actions. And a lot of them are fairly straightforward, such as cooking meat. You need to have a meat resource. You can turn it into food. And your character needs to be beside an active lit fire. All right. Now, let's get into it. We're going to start playing the game. And just to highlight, you do have some special locations with these symbols. Those will come into effect depending on the scenario and what cards you end up interacting with during that session. Now, our character has 10 stamina. He's at full health. Don't forget, doesn't matter what type of damage you have. If you have 3 damage, you are dead. And physical damage, which is damage you can take from enemies, the skull is often unhealable. So keep that in mind. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to move 1, which will cost us 1 stamina. We're now going to spend another stamina to scout, meaning we'll flip this over, and then we're going to place resources on the tile based on what we've now discovered. In this case, we've discovered a log, so we place that token there, as well as some game animals. So we'll need to take out a game animal token and place it there. We'll then grab our board and spend the 2 stamina. We can spend up to 8 more stamina this turn. Now, different locations such as mountains may cost you more stamina. If I'm not mistaken, these will cost 2. There are other more hilly mountains that will cost you 3 stamina, meaning I can go like this. It'll cost me 3 stamina to get to that location, or I can move 1, 2, 3. Ends up being the same thing. In any case, first thing I'm going to do is go for the wood. So I move 1, 2, and as my action is move and gather, I'm able to gather this. So I pick up the token and I gain 2 wood. Once again, go to my sheet, my tracker, lower my stamina by 2. I still have 6 stamina for the evening. Now, one thing that I did neglect to do, and I'm going to do it very quickly right now, is every character starts with 1 food and 1 water. Sorry about that. Forgot to do it in the setup. As I was gaining resources, I realized that I neglected to add it. But don't worry, for those of you that are watching the video, not seeing me film it in real time, I'll be adding an addendum to that. We need to explore, and I'm in a good location that I'm able to scout again. I'll just drop my stamina by 1, flip over the next tile, and see what we uncover. Well, once again, we've uncovered some more tokens. Now what we're going to need to do is place a food token, and I'm going to get out another log token. And that is really the sort of the core mechanics of the game. We're really just moving around, exploring, trying to find some stuff. Now, just to give you a little bit more context, you're going to be going on what the scenario tells you to do. Now, it says after a survivor investigates landmark number 1, advance to stage 2. So we need to find that landmark. Also, we may need to potentially get back to the fire so that bad things don't happen to us at night. We will move 1 more stamina. We're going to reveal what this is. We gain another log, so we've got this other resource. We are now down to 4 stamina, meaning by the time they get back to the fire, things may not go very well. So we'll move back to the fire. That takes 3 stamina, leaving us with 1 left. Any stamina that we still have carries over to the next turn. What we then do is we draw the first nighttime card, and then we go through the card. So in this case, each survivor either spends 1 food or suffers 1 damage. Well, luckily we start with some food. I will discard it. Each survivor gains 8 stamina. I'm just going to put the card down quickly. So I go back up to 9. In this case, we have a windstorm, so we need to place a wood feature token, supply on each space that has no feature token. Then if you're not at a fire, the tribe leader draws 1 threat card. As it's a 1-player game, it'd always be me drawing a threat card. I'm going to go and grab 2 more resources as they've now been replenished and place them on the board. It's not that bad, but when you look at what I'm trying to build, it's not really what I need. And this is going to be a great opportunity to show you how combat works, because combat, whether you're fighting an enemy or you're engaging with something that can potentially become food and I'm out of food, it works the same way. The one thing that is important to note is that when you engage in combat, it happens immediately. It doesn't cost you any stamina. But we'll keep exploring a bit first, and let's see what we get. In this case, I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. Leaving 5 stamina left. Reveal what we have here. And, aha! We did find a water source, which I'll place on the board. And we've once again found some animals, which we'll place on the board. And don't have any food. Water is a very valuable resource. We can move 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It would cost us all our stamina to get to the water, which may not be a bad thing. We could use some food, but even if we count it out, we've got 5 stamina left, meaning 1, 2. Engage in that. We still don't have enough to get back to the fire. What I'm going to do here is my second turn is move to get the water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So move and gather so I can gather the water. Flip it over, see what it is. It is a good water token. So I will gain a water resource. Now, this is really how you're going to be playing the game. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you combat next. But before I get into combat, I'm just going to reveal a couple tiles to give you an idea as to what you may find in terms of things like landmarks. So for example, you've got landmark number 4 here. And after that, when you find these locations, you then go into the exploration deck and you would engage in that landmark. So for example, landmark number 4 would say you found a mossy cave. You go through it and you would resolve the card. That also costs 1 stamina. And if we had the resources to craft an item, let's say I was able to craft the bola, it tells me it's item 94. I would go through the deck, I would draw item 94, and then I would be able to use this bola, would discard this plan card, and then I would draw a new plan card as to what I am trying to make. And that's really going to be playing the game, moving around, exploring, trying to complete your objective while crafting items. Now what's really interesting is that if you take a look at a manually special ability, for 1 stamina, he can draw the top card of a project deck limit once every day. So it's actually really cool for him to be able to cycle through some stuff. I'm just going to put this back in the deck. And important to note, what you will be doing with that bola in a multiplayer game is that the bola will actually stay, that plan will stay out near the table, because all other players you're playing with can also then craft that item. So I'm going to put this back. Actually, sorry, no, I'm going to put the tomahawk back. I'm going to put this back. I haven't crafted anything. I'm just not going to draw the water token. I'm going to have to pull it out of the bag. It's not really that important. We're now going to just go through the end of the phase. I spent all my stamina. I am at 0 health. We're now in the night phase. I will draw another night card. So in this case, each survivor either spends 1 food or suffers 1 hunger damage, meaning I am now damaged. By eating food, drinking water, curing sickness or poison, you can get rid of these status conditions. So these can be healed. It's only a light sleep, meaning I get 7 stamina, and each survivor not at a fire draws a threat card. So we'll set up my stamina. We will discard this. We'll draw a threat card, see what happens. In this case, strain symbols, move each monster token 2 spaces towards you. Luckily enough, we haven't spawned any monsters on the board as of yet. So we're good. Nothing spawns. You would actually discard the card. I just put it back at the bottom of the deck. What we're going to do now is we're going to cut. I'm going to engage some of these creatures, and we're going to discuss combat. So keep it right here, and we'll be back hopefully shortly, because surviving out here at night is not easy. Now we're going to take a look at combat in Discover Lands Unknown. Now I've just given myself some resources to give you guys some quick ideas as to how these combat modifiers work. We've got the 2 combat die, and I flipped this over just as a reminder. when you drink from a water source, you don't have to share the information if you're playing in a competitive scenario. Now we've got 7 stamina. Let's see if we can hunt some creatures. And we've got this monster here, and afterwards we'll give you an example of fighting a monster. So let's do it. I can spend 3 stamina and move to this location. Let's see what I get. Oh, forgot about that. You can actually just get pelts or, essentially finding animal remains, and the only thing that's left is their fur when you inspect these locations. We'll move on and hopefully we'll find something here. That'll be another 3 stamina. And as luck would have it, we have an elk, number 65. Now we've gone all the way down to 1 stamina. We go into this deck and we will draw card 65, revealing it. Now the one thing I want to highlight, for those of you that didn't necessarily take a look at the components, you'll notice that there is no attack value on the elk, meaning we do not roll the enemy die, we just roll our die. It requires 2 damage in order to defeat it. Fortunately, we have no weapons, so you can only do 1 damage at a time. If we succeed, we get this reward. Now in order to do that, we have to roll the combat die and see what we get. We get 11. It will take 1 damage. And as it is not dead, it retreats 1 space from us. Meaning to continue our attack, we'd have to go down to 0 stamina and follow it. We then immediately enter into combat. The moment you occupy a space with a creature, you're in combat. It does not require any stamina. Now, let's roll again. This time it's a 3, meaning that we actually have failed and we do not succeed in our combat with the elk. And that would be the end of it. We would then go into the nighttime phase because of our stamina. So that's essentially how combat works against nice creatures. Let's flip this over and imagine back when I drew that threat card. This monster rushed in and engaged me from 2 spaces away. We draw card 80. And instead of this nice elk, which I'm going to have back in the deck right now, we're going to be fighting a wolf. Now, a wolf has their own combat die, meaning they can damage us. And as I was messing around with these symbols earlier, we're just going to put it back to how it actually was. I had 1 starvation damage. I've got 2 health. Messing with the wolf is not great because I have no modifiers. And don't forget, I can't heal physical damage. The wolf, as it has this attack value, can deal physical damage to me. Now, when we're engaging the wolf, we have to roll both dice, and we see what happens. In this case, we both take a damage. I have taken that 1 physical damage, which is permanent, meaning it will take only 1 more hit to kill me, but the wolf has also taken 1 damage. Now, we'll just to show you how risky that can be to maybe fight again without having a way to heal this before we fight. And don't forget, anytime you do not defeat an enemy, they retreat by 1 space, meaning you'd have to spend some stamina to press the attack, unless there are some special rules with the enemy. If I still had stamina and I decide to press the attack, I'm desperate to get some meat. I can make the roll, and boom, guess what? I am now dead. Now, we could use some of these combat modifiers. So, in this case, be a great time to use a rock to re-roll the red die. We really don't want to die. We could also re-roll the gray die because we were not successful by spending a wood. So let's go ahead and do that. And in this case, it wouldn't have been so bad. We would have defeated the wolf, gained the reward, and not taken any damage, but we are very close to death. So if that creature had actually been a wolf, for example, we then go into the night phase, and hopefully we don't pull something that we didn't have. Luckily, this was thirst. We could spend it. If it had said food, we take 1 damage and we die. It is very easy to die in this game. And there you have it. You've gotten your gist of the game. We have covered combat. I'm now going to try to survive the night, which I think I will. And if I do, Julie and I are going to come back at you with a review of the game. So Discover Lands Unknown. What did you think of the game?
Well, it seemed interesting. I don't think I've played something quite like this before.
A little bit of Nemesis. Well, you are running around trying to survive and finding resources. But beyond that aspect, nothing really with the same Well, the exploration was fairly similar as well.
Yeah, but this is survival. You have nothing. Basically, you're trying to survive. So this was a little different. And when we played the first mission, and
A lot easier to die.
Well, it wasn't than the first mission, I would say. So when we first started playing this, and we were about halfway through, I thought, yeah, this is fun. I can enjoy this. This is different, and I can see myself pulling this out again. I just thought, okay, this is phase 1, and then it'll
get harder
or add new twists and add new. And then we played the second mission, and yeah, it was a completely different game.
I don't think it was a completely different game. I just think that we got different elements that came out. And this is my opinion. You can back me up or not. Sorry to jump in right there. I think we kind of got two sides of the coin. We saw really the way Discover Lands Unknown will work when everything goes your way. Then we saw sort of how it works when nothing goes your way. And at least for me, what I found is after seeing those two sides, the game that kind of falls in the middle, I didn't think was necessarily all that interesting to play.
Yeah, so in this case, basically we ran around the entire time looking for a way out, running out of water, basically starving and running out of water and being thirsty, and being attacked every which way, and just not finding any relief or anything anywhere.
Yeah, and it's all random. So I think one thing that we should explain with regards to the game, for those of you that have not played the game or seen anyone do a playthrough or skipped over how to play, you reveal the tile. Everything that's on the tile is random, so you never know what you're going to get. And that's where I think the game has a lot of flaws.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other thing is once you know, because certain of the tiles repeat, once you know where something is, so like there's a landmark, you don't know where the landmark is going to end up, but once you turn it, you know exactly what's there. You know exactly, because it's the same story, it's the same landmark. It's not like...
Well, it's not quite the same story, it's the same positioning, but it's very similar.
It's not like, oh, that's tree landmark number 10, and in the second mission or third mission is something completely different.
No.
If it was landmark number 10 and it could be something completely different, then okay. But I think it lacked something there. It felt thin, I guess.
No. And I think you're catching on to something that I mentioned that we would talk about is the whole unique game. The game feels incredibly thin. The story is crap. I'll be honest, after playing the first two scenarios, I was curious to see how the story would progress. The story is essentially 4 paragraphs of, well, maybe more than 4 paragraphs. Maybe a page-long story essentially is what you're getting, or more the outline of a story. And the game had to be designed that way because every game has to be different. So you've got these very thin stories or elements are getting combined in a certain way in a computer system to create your own unique copy. And that's why I think the terrain felt very thin as well. You have 2 scenario books, so 2 types of terrain, but you've got 2 missions per terrain type. Then mission 5, which is the competitive mission that you can replay as much as you want. But those 2 terrain types, I mean, you just shuffle it up and deal it out, sort of. Well, not even, because certain tiles have to go in certain spots. And essentially, that is going to be your mission. That's going to be what you're playing. And I definitely do not think that there is enough here to justify this whole unique game aspect. Now, some people loved it. I've seen some people talking on Board Game Geek. They just adore the game. And some people really love survival. And there's a whole genre of survival video games. This may be the game for you if you like those potentially hard, punishing conditions. And you can get 3 different copies, and each copy is going to be different.
I think just that, it's a novelty, great, but the game itself that we got, I don't think was a lot of fun. It didn't necessarily have a lot of replayability. So for me, I think the negatives definitely outweighed the positives.
No, I agree with you 100%.
I mean, I liked their little token. I liked the little man, the meeple. I think he was cute.
I also like the house tracker. That was neat. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I liked the day and night phase. I thought that was done well. Essentially, there's a lot of great ideas in the game, but what we felt...
Well, that's why I said the first game was fun.
Yeah, but what we played felt like a tutorial. It's like, okay, this is what we're doing, and then it seemed like it was going to go beyond the tutorial. And then the game one is kind of the game, and I think we both soured on it really quick. Be honest, we only played this game twice. After the second game, we looked at each other. I go, you want to keep going? And both of us were like, there's other things we'd rather play. I would much rather take out Nemesis and play that, start the co-op campaign, and have that survival intense experience, because we'd have better stories. When we had a tough game in Nemesis, we at least got like a story out of this. A tough game in Discover, I kind of felt like, wow, we just got a lot of bad random luck, nothing we needed on the tiles, nothing we needed on the resources that showed up, and then we died because we picked the wrong 3 exits to head towards. It was just very disappointing, that second game, and I think you can see like that sort of swing in the game, and I think a lot of that design flaw is really because it's a unique game. It's missing those elements of design that would have to be shored up for a specific game, because essentially what you're getting is almost this like skeleton, bare bones outline of a game that needs to be able to be put together and spit out in a bunch of random different combinations. And it's cool, it's interesting. I'll be honest, I would pick up a copy of this game on deep discount just for the unique factor, because I like collecting games. But like I said, it'd have to be at a deep discount. At MSRP, especially MSRP, we've seen it around here in Canada, they're close to that $65, $75 Canadian mark. This is a hard pass.
Yeah, and I think that's all I have to say about it. I would be ready to rate it at this point. I don't have anything more to add on this game.
No, I don't think I really have anything more to add. I would say that, actually, there is one thing I want to add with regards to the artwork. There is some good artwork in the game, but there is also some elements that are very bland, and typically that's the elements that are supposed to be more unique. I think they did a good job creating characters, the characters that you play as in Discover, but I think everything else is very bland and generic.
I would say one of the things as well is I think we ended up with the 2 best characters the first time we played.
Yes.
I had the marathoner, and I definitely think that being like her special ability definitely made life a lot easier for us when we played the game. Well, it might have been different the second time around with her.
Well, my character had a very strong ability. I never got to use it, and I have seen that comment online on Boardgame Geek and Reddit. All of the survivors are not created equal, and it is a big imbalance. You have guys that are very powerful, and then other characters that you can play this game 5 times without using their ability once. And I think that's a real drawback of the game. And once again, I think it falls straight into that unique game aspect. And as much as I do like survival games and feeling that type of challenge, the survival element and aspect that was offered by Discover just wasn't enough for me. I just go reiterating one last time. The game is thin and generic.
So on that note, I give it a 5.
I give it a 5 because of the unique element, and they're trying something new. If this was a game that wasn't unique, this would be a 4 in my opinion. I don't think that there's enough there. I think Fantasy Flight is trying to test out some new ideas. Good on them. But I don't feel it at all comes together in this package for the cost of the game. If this was a $20 game per se, not necessarily $20 Canadian, but $20 US, I'd say you're probably almost right on the money. It could be fun, interesting. I could see taking it out a couple times. But right now, before I forget, this was lent to us by someone that regular viewers have seen on the channel, Mike Essie. Once again, thanks for letting us get the chance to experience the game. If you want to see who Mike is or see content that he and I have done together, right now it's just one review. You will find a link to Space Base coming up when we get to the later part of the video.
I was going to say, I think we're there now. We've both rated it. So you'll see the links, as Jason talked about, appearing on the video. And also, as always, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button to know when we have new videos for you.
All right, so what are we going to do, Julie?
We're going to grab our drinks.
Grab our drinks. Grab our best friend.
We're going to keep playing games. Just not this one in my case.
Oh, just not this one. And one last thing that I did neglect to mention, so some people might not catch this. There were some issues with the game in terms of its semi-co-op nature, something that we didn't talk about enough, I think, because we just really didn't enjoy. There are full co-op rules available for the game. However, if you didn't go online or look at their website, you'd never find it. So just keep that in mind. You can play this fully co-op, but I don't think it's going to change anything for us.